What is going on, my friends? Today I'm going to show you what I think is going to end up being the 7-4 stopper in NBA 2K26. With this new patch coming out, they're going to be buffing contest on taller builds. Statistically, before the patch, 6'11 was the best height that I saw or that I heard of to stop a 7-4, but I think this patch is going to be very, very big, very, very important. If you don't know anything about this patch, it's pretty much giving a buff to taller builds when contesting a shot, aka we need to find a way to stop these 7-4s from being so broken. I've posted a 6'8 build and a 6'9 build that are more like defensive heavy builds, aka back end builds, and those builds have a lot more perimeter. So if this patch ends up being as good as everyone says it's going to be when it comes to contests, those builds will probably be better than this. But just to play it safe, we're going to be a little bit taller, and we're going to have at least silver challenger. I'm going to talk about some of the badge +1 and badge +2s that make this build really, really good. We're designing this build to be a 7-4 stopper, but in a world where, maybe the 7-4s will just be broken for the rest of the year, this build is still going to be very, very good and very, very usable. So let's get right into it. 80 speed, 76 agility, 73 strength, and 78 vertical. We're getting to that point of the year where you got to start paying attention to your cap breakers. The more cap breakers that you get, the more glitchy you can make your build, meaning you can make a stat go up 15 overall. A stat can go up 10 overall. I'm still trying to figure out how exactly to do that consistently. But for this build right here, we're going to be doing it with our finishing. Great shooting on this build, great playmaking, and very, very good defense at the 6'10 height. 6'10, you can do some glitchy things with your tier 2 and tier 1 badges. I'm going to be posting a video later in the week talking about the best badges that you could badge +1, badge +2, the best tier 1, tier 2 badges that you can elevate for each height and each kind of build in the game. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you want to get notified when that video goes live. Now, we're not the slowest, we're not the fastest, we're not the weakest, we're not the strongest, but we can jump out of the gym with the 78 vertical. You can't get on-ball menace on a 6'10. You're too tall. So I think having strength at a 73 is going to be very, very important to get that immovable enforcer on silver, or excuse me, on bronze. You could get on silver with a tier 2 +1 if you really believe in that badge, especially without having on-ball menace. Putting that a +2, getting that to gold is very, very useful as well, I think. I would use my tier 2s just a little bit different. I'll talk about it here in a second. You're going to have an 80 D board, which I like a lot. You're going to get that silver rebound chaser, which is very, very nice, very, very helpful, especially when you're trying to get rebounds over taller builds. There's a big difference from bronze to silver, silver to gold. Last year, I don't think there was that big of a difference from bronze to silver, but this year there is quite a difference. So definitely worth getting it up to that 80 overall there. You can also argue that maybe you can go up even more if you just want your speed with ball to be at a 68. You could also put it at 85 if you want. I didn't do that for today's video just because I think the more speed with ball, the better. But, that's something that you can look into. We'll probably look into it at the end of the video, but, oh, we're going back too far now. But yeah, 80's pretty good right here. Your O board is going to be at a 76. That way, if you're playing park mostly, your O board is there. That way you can rebound over the smaller guards, which is very helpful in park. But if you don't play a lot of park, I would lower the O board and the free throw when it's all said and done with this build. You're going to have a 74 interior, 82 perimeter, and then you're going to have a 60 steal with a maxed block at 88. You can't get Paint Patroller on gold, unfortunately. I really wish we could, but that's a 93 block. Can't even use cap breakers to get this from an 88 to a 93 because it's already maxed out. High Flying Denier, eventually you can get that on gold. It's very easy to get if you want to lower, like I said, your O board. You can get an 80 vertical, especially if you're someone that doesn't play a lot of park and you play mostly, maybe 1s, maybe 5s. This is going to be a 6'10 guard-like build. So, not a bad idea to get that vertical up if you want to get more block. Challenger is going to be silver. It's going to be a tier 2. So you can get Hall of Fame Challenger on this build if you'd like. That's where I feel like this might be the 7-4 stopper with this new patch. I think in general, 6'8 to 6'11 builds are going to contest just better overall. The shorter that you go, the more challenger you can get. So, at a 6'9, you can get just straight up gold challenger. On a 6'8", you can get just straight up Hall of Fame challenger, which I think is going to be very, very good. We can get gold or Hall of Fame with the +1, with the +2. Very, very useful, very, very good. Like I said, can't get on-ball menace, but you can get immovable enforcer. So I think with a build like this, not being able to get on-ball menace kind of stinks, but I'm not going to say you have to get immovable, but if you're someone that values defense, I definitely think you should get immovable on your 6'10", just to make up for that loss of on-ball menace. Steal, I'm going to show it eventually once we move on, but you can get the steal to a 73. So anytime that maybe in the game they decide, hey, steals are terrible, we need to figure out steals, maybe not so much the plucks, but more so the interceptor stuff, you can get cap breakers and use those to get to a 73 steal there. So very, very well-rounded defensive build. It really doesn't get too much better than this all around. You know, I've said before that I'd rather have block than steal this year, so big fan there. Playmaking, you're gonna have a 76 pass. I'm not as in love with the 76 pass as I used to be, but for Park, 76 pass is more than enough to make really good passes. You're gonna have a 75 ball handle, and you're gonna have a we're gonna go with the 70 speed with ball. The more speed with ball, the better. You know, I have a takeover, a custom takeover where you can get +15 speed with ball. If that's possible on this build, you know, you're gonna have 85 speed with ball on a 6'10", so that's kind of crazy there. 75 ball handle doesn't get you anything crazy, but this is where it kind of can get glitchy. Lightning launch and handles for days are both tier 2 badges. Those are, I mean, those are both tier 1 badges for most builds, especially handles for days. Handles for days to me is one of the more important badges for guards this year, if not the most important badge for guards. Anytime you get bumped, your energy is getting drained. Anytime that you're putting together a bunch of combo moves, your energy is getting drained. Anytime that you hold trigger and you're trying to do dribble moves, your energy goes down even more. So handles for days to me would be the obvious choice to +2, honestly. You're gonna get a few of them. I think you have, when you count crew and the other ones that you get from the season pass, you're gonna get, I think, 2 +1 tier 2 things, and then 1 +2 for the tier 2. So, you know, I would probably +2 handles for days to go on gold, put this on silver, and then I might play around with challenger depending on how good it is. I'll put that on gold as well, just so I can get better contests. So very, very glitchy there. That's 3 badges that are tier 1 really, then you get them tier 2. So very glitchy stuff there. But, you know, it's kind of crazy because all these badges that I'm talking about, you can +1, +2, they're all tier 2. So it can get kind of confusing. But for shooting, we're going to go with an 85-3. And then here we're going to do a 93 midi off the rip. Me personally, the only specialization I've really made a lot of ground on is going to be the shooting. So I would do my shooting specialization for this build. If you don't, Shifty Shooter is a tier 2 badge. I think this is the most broken badge in the game when it comes to the shots that you can make on offense this year. Everyone and their mothers is fading, whether it's from 3, from the midi, fading to the left, fading to the right. Fading right now is broken. I think that this is probably the best offensive badge. Shifty and handles for days are in that same category, same tier level for me, S tier. I think Shifty's better than set shot, hence why I went for the Hall of Fame set shot. I feel like I can shoot, you know, more than okay with Hall of Fame set shot, so I'm just going to leave that there. But with my shooting specialization, that gives me flexibility to potentially put this set shot specialist on legend and then put this on legend as well, you know, freeing up some space for me to, you know, use a tier 2 on handles for days or challenger or lightning launch or immovable, you know what I'm saying? So I think this is where the 6'10" becomes a very viable build, just because, you know, you can get Shifty on legend on this build. I mean, that's insane that you're able to do that on a 6'10". I don't like 6'10s because of defense. I would move more towards a 6'9", but, you know, for offense, it's hard to argue against a 6'10". But you can also use cap breakers on your 3 if you would like. You can get up to an 89-3. You can actually get up to a 91-3. You know, we're 1 away from 91, but you can get to a 93 with 5 cap breakers and, you know, get that deep bomber take, which It's hard to argue against that. I think with this kind of build, that's probably the one that I would go for, just because, for me, I'm going to be putting my cap breakers on my 3, my specialization cap breakers on my 3. So I have 6 right now. I probably won't go 5 right off the rip, but I'll definitely put, 2 there, maybe 3 there. Kind of just depends on how fast I get done with my shooting specialization. But very, very broken build here. Very, very broken, very, very broken, very, very fun. Now, finishing, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with the 610 because, to be fair, haven't dribbled with the 610 this year. I've just heard that it can be very, very good. I'm going to do a rise up on bronze, 72 standing dunk there. And then I'm going to do a 78 driving dunk there with a 70 layup here. And then we do end up having an 84 free throw there. Like I said, if you play mostly park, you don't really need free throw at all. If you play mostly 5s, you're probably going to want that free throw, but you want to drop your O board, in my opinion. But this is probably the most well-rounded build, or one of the more well-rounded builds I've made this year, just because at 6'10", you're going to rebound better. You're going to defend at a pretty decent level just because you're so tall. You're going to be able to dribble pretty well. 75 ball handle gets you pretty good animations. You can get gold lightning launch on this build. You can get legend shifty. And eventually you're going to be able to get contact dunks off of 2. So let's get past all this yapping here for a second. I'm going to show you the cap breakers just so that you know that it's real. 2-way skilled stretch. Really like that name. Loses ground in matchups. Post attempts usually end poorly. So, I mean, we're making this build to be a guard. So let's get past all the yapping here that they do.
Okay.
And then I'll show you what you can do with your cap breakers here in just 1 second here.
Actually, I'm trying to go hoop in
and
the city.
We're gonna get by it. I still have my brown tee on. That's okay. Don't judge me. And then here we go. So depending on who you are, you're already maxed out on your physicals. I wouldn't use any here unless you're, you want to be able to dunk more. Then maybe you just change the build completely. But look, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 10 cap breakers gets you to an 88 dunk. I messed around with this a long while. I couldn't get 89 dunk. Maybe someone can figure that out, but I think it's because my wingspan was short, and I want my wingspan that tall, that long, because I want to be able to get set shot Hall of Fame. Probably wouldn't touch it until I get my shooting specialization done. But nonetheless, you get Devin Booker dunk package, I believe, off the rip. So maybe you don't touch dunk for a long while. Maybe once you hit vet 1 or starter 4 or 5 or whatever. So, something to think about there. I wouldn't touch this 6, 7, 8. You get up to an 80. You're not close enough there. 5 cap breakers here gets you to a 93. That's going to be deep bomber there. Until we get better animations at a 78 ball handle, I don't see a reason to put a cap breaker there. If you value more so on the defensive side of things, you can get 7, 10, 13. 13 plus 60 is 73. So that's going to get you interceptor on silver. Again, with a silver badge, you can make that Hall of Fame if you'd like with the +2. Up to you, though. Like, there's a lot of different ways that you can use your cap breakers. This is one of those builds where you can't really go wrong with any of the ones I just said. If you want to dunk more right off the rip, then do this and then just grind out your shooting specialization here. If you want to steal a little bit more, maybe there's a patch that comes in that buffs lane steals. You can get a couple cap breakers here. Maybe you just want to get deep bomber right off the rip like I would. Then you can just go 5 here right off the rip, and then your shooting specialization, you can just put on, maybe your vertical, or maybe you can do 2 here for now, and then maybe 4 here. Certainly plays there. Again, 86 dunk. That's probably something I would think about doing, just so you can leave room for your shooting specialization. But that's where it's up to you. What are you going to use your specialization on with this build? Just kind of depends on where you're at. But I think this could be a 7-4 stopper, especially with this buff. Obviously, we have to see how this patch really ends up working for us. But if it works well, I think this is going to be the one right here. But it should be most builds from 6-8 and up to just contest better in general. So let me know what you think about this build in the comments below. 2-way skilled stretch. I love that name. I think that's awesome. So I'm curious to get your guys' feedback. Thank you for your love and support. Subscribe if you are new, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye. Peace.